Hey, everybody. Can anybody hear me?
Hey, Steven. Yep, I can hear you.
Hey. The one thing I wanted to try, I just sent an email out. I got a text message from the guy from Pet with Blooms, Steve Feingold. He submitted the application this month for grants, and I wondered if we could stick that on the agenda here, if possible, a little bit.
Yeah, I did just see that email. That sounds totally reasonable to me.
Okay.
Yeah. No concerns on my end.
All right. I'm gonna go on mute. I got the baby right here on my chest, so.
Oh, I was gonna ask, how's it? Yeah, how's it going? Are you sleeping at all, or
It's going so far so good.
yeah, newborn? Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, congrats and thanks for joining.
of course. Yeah. No, don't tilt it up. What tilt it? Oh, wow, you gotta keep it like that.
Our hands was in touch with. Alexa,
Anyway,
Yeah.
I'll let you go. But yeah, I'll watch today, so I'll watch the recorded version. But good luck with it. I hope it goes well.
good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It looks like I've got 6:31 on my watch, but we'll just wait a minute or two more and give everyone a chance to come in. Sorry that I'm a little late today. For those of you who are just joining, we're just going to give people a few more minutes to sign in. It's a beautiful day outside, so maybe people are out and about instead of dialing into an ANC meeting, and I don't blame them for that. So we'll give everyone a few more minutes, though. For those of you who've just signed in, we're just holding off just a minute or two more to give people a chance to dial in.
Hello.
Good evening, everybody. We're just giving everyone another minute or two to sign in. We'll get started in just a moment.
Okay.
Well, everyone, it's 6:35 by my watch, so why don't we get started? And people will just trickle in as we get moving. Good evening, everybody. My name is Anthony Parati. I'm ANC Commissioner from 4D08, and it's my pleasure to welcome all of you here this evening on this beautiful April day. For those of you who have not come to an ANC meeting before, thank you for joining us. These meetings are a public opportunity for us to get together as a community to talk about issues that are going on in our neighborhood and put our heads together to figure out how we can make our neighborhood a better place to live. And for those of you who are returning, welcome back. We're glad to have you here. Before we get started, just a couple of house rules. Please keep yourself muted if you're not speaking. If you forget to mute yourself, we will mute you for you. Please use the raise hand function if you'd like to participate. We'll gladly call on you. There will be an opportunity for public participation in the meeting. So there will be a chance for the public to weigh in. I think we might have somebody who's not muted. Okay. With that started, we'll get started with roll call. So Secretary George.
Yes, I'll now call roll of the commissioners who are here. Is Commissioner Pinckney from 4001 here? Please stay present if you are present. Commissioner Pinckney, I don't see her. Commissioner Judson, 4002.
Present.
Commissioner Lucarelli, 4003. Commissioner Corniatis, 4004.
Present.
Commissioner Forensic, 4005.
Present.
Commissioner George, 4006. I am present. Commissioner Weigel, 4007.
Present.
And Commissioner Chair Parati from 4008.
Present. Thank you, sir. Next item is approval of the agenda. So Secretary George, I know you sent up an agenda for the past week. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda that we need to make?
I believe there is one addition. We would propose to add as agenda item 7F in the city official comments, remarks from Richard Reyes.
You want to see this done?
Billa, go on mute, please.
Secretary
Sorry,
George,
so,
yeah, please.
The agenda that is up on our website and that was sent around should be accurate, except for we would propose to add as agenda item 7F comments from Richard Reyes Gavilan of the DC Public Library.
Commissioner Morensic, I see you've got a hand raised.
Yes, I'd also like to add an addition under new business. We all received emails from the Petworth Blooms grant application, and I was out with the baby earlier this month, so I didn't make our executive meeting, but I'd like to request that we add that to our new business later today. The leader of that project is available to speak on it. and we could vote on that this evening.
I would like a request that we push that off until next month because we're in the process of still awaiting approval of a couple things from ANC on that. And so I think it would be more effective and beneficial to put that off until next month.
Okay, I know that on the application sent earlier that they're requesting to start the project May 1st, which is why I was trying to just see if we could get on this agenda, but I'm open to discussion on that.
Yeah, I understand that. As I said, we're not able at this point to even issue that, we haven't had an opportunity to review the grant, and the grant process overall is being assessed by our commission, given the fact that there are 2 outstanding grants, et cetera. So, even though there's a start date of May 1st, it may have to be pushed back till later in the summer.
That's fine with me.
Okay, so just to be clear, so Commissioner Mrenzek, are you withdrawing that agenda item then for today?
Yes, it sounds like we don't have the ability to write checks at this point anyways. And so with that understanding, I withdraw the suggestion.
Okay.
So,
So
I would move to approve the agenda with the amendment that I noted earlier, adding the DC Public Library testimony as agenda item 7F.
can I have a second?
Second that.
All those in
Good
favor?
evening. Hi, Joy Pinkney here.
Hi, Joy, welcome. I don't think we need to do a roll call vote for this one. So all those in favor, just say aye. If there
Aye.
Aye.
any nays? All right, agenda's approved unanimously. Next up, we've got the minutes from last month's meeting. Secretary George.
Yep, the draft minutes have been circulated and are up on our website. I have no proposed changes, so I would move that we approve the draft minutes from our March 2023 public meeting.
Are there any changes or corrections to the minutes from any of the commissioners? Any changes or objections to the minutes from the general public? Anything that we might have missed? Mr. Tomowayo, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I see your hand is raised. Nothing?
Yes, I would like to say something maybe when you finish what you are doing, whether A or B, I want to have something to say. So I want that to be put on the agenda. If you have to do that, or I don't know where you accommodate that, but I just want to say that up front.
Sure, we'll have an opportunity for public participation in the meeting, and so you'll have an opportunity to voice any concerns or questions that you have then. So that's already an agenda item for us.
Thank you, sir.
Sure, of course. So with no objections, changes, or corrections, the minutes are approved by unanimous consent. Next up, we have a treasurer's report. Treasurer Cornelius.
Can we push that a bit because I just received an email? Can I go in about 10 minutes or so?
Okay, we'll push that back until after the city official comments, and then we'll get to the treasurer's item.
Thank you.
Sure. Next up, we have comments from various city officials. First up, we have a representative from the mayor's office. Is our representative here, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Thank you for joining, sir. You've got the next 10 minutes.
Okay, well, I'll be very brief because I want to cede most of my time to our guest who's going to present on the budget. But I did want to note that it's a great weekend coming up for Petworth, and we're going to be having the Petworth Porch Fest. And so I just want to note that over 190 bands at 80 locations across Petworth, host location porches. They're going to be between I think the hours are 2 and 6, and I'm going to post in the chat the link, but feel free to come out, and that's this Saturday, April 22nd. So hopefully I'll see all of you there, and I'll see the rest of my time unless there's any questions that any community members or commissioners have of me.
First, questions from any of the commissioners for Mr. Johnson?
Have the, I'm sorry, have
No,
the
please.
meeting minutes or the after action report from the mayor's security walk been published at this point? I haven't seen them.
I know that I've seen some internal things circulated, so let me write that down as a note and I can circle back on the after action report. But I know that at a month out, Sophia Tacola and I did do a walkthrough and noted all of the, 311 service requests had been fulfilled, and we got updates from the different agencies. Let me find if that report's been published, and I'll circle back with you particularly and to the ANC in total.
Questions
Thank
from
you.
from any of the other commissioners?
Joy Pinckney. I'd just like to thank him very much for coming out to my inaugural meeting with my neighborhood, and just thank him for attending and for all the information.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
Any other questions from commissioners? Hearing none, any questions from the general public for Mr. Johnson in the mayor's office? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Johnson, for your time and for coming this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you all.
Next up, we have a representative from our council member's office. Ms. Rogers, the next 10 minutes are yours.
I, like Mr. Johnson, will not take up too much of your time, just a few updates. We want to first thank all the ANC commissioners and the Ward 4 residents who showed up and testified at the council budget oversight hearings. We really, really appreciate all of you all. Next week, the council committees will release updated budgets for the agencies under their oversight based on feedback from the residents shared during the oversight hearing. After that, the budget will come before the full council for 2 votes. Councilmember Janice Lewis-George, of course, announced her proposed changes to the budget that will happen next Tuesday afternoon. She will continue to fight to secure additional Ward 4 investments, restore funds to the emergency rental assistance, and more funding for violence prevention programs, and of course, for our schools. Just one announcement, we are putting on a Ward 4 Jobs Not Gun job fair this coming Saturday. It's a lot going on Saturday, Earth Day, but it'll be this Saturday at Coolidge High School from 11 to 3. So community members can come out, apply for jobs from a whole host of employers. This event is in partnership with the DC Gun Violence Prevention Coalition. So this is an important way for us to bring opportunities to Ward 4 and to lift up our community. So please spread the word. If you know of any potential employers, they can email me to participate. I'm happy to put my email in the chat. And also we have a flyer that I think most of you all have seen, and I'm happy it's actually on our website. And I'm happy to put the flyer in the chat as well. Just a couple of more updates. Public litter cans. After legislation from Councilmember Janice Lewis-George and strong advocacy from our ANCs, DPW has updated its process for requesting public litter cans to be installed. Community members can now request a public litter can to be installed on the 311 website or using the 311 mobile app. or the 311 call center under the category of public space litter can installation. DPW has stopped removing public litter cans without engaging our ANC commissioners. And there were some public litter cans that were removed, and those have already started to be reinstalled. And lastly, DC Medicaid renewal. As most of you all know, that this year you will have to register to have your Medicaid renewed. It's a process, and we want to make sure, I think the number is in the hundreds of thousands of DC residents that qualify for DC Medicaid. And we want to make sure, especially our seniors, will be able to renew their Medicaid. The first step for DC residents, they should visit the website, which is districtdirect.dc.gov on their computers, or they can reach out to our office, our constituent service office, to receive assistance. While some DC residents, some will be automatically renewed through the DHCF. Most DC residents will need to complete the renewal application online, by mail, or by visiting one of the district service centers. And again, if you need assistance, you can contact our constituent service office. And then finally, if you're not on our email list to receive our weekly newsletter, please go to www.ward4news.com, or you can get it on our website, which is www.janiceward4.com. That's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Questions from any of the commissioners for the council member's office? Secretary Iman, or Secretary George.
Thank you. One quick question for you, Ms. Rogers. I had seen Councilwoman Lewis George have an interaction with DPW about this on Twitter. When DPW released its 311 process for requesting a trash can, it seemed unclear whether they were requiring ANC sign off in the sense of like the whole commission supporting specific trash cans, or whether their intention was just to have individual commissioners sign off on trash can requests. Do you know what DPW is expecting in terms of commissioner involvement to request new trash cans? I think you're on mute, sorry.
Sorry. I can confirm that, but I think that it depends on where the trash can is being requested. I don't think it would require the entire commission, but Commissioner George, I can definitely confirm that information for you.
That would be great. And it would be really helpful. I can also pass this feedback along to DPW, but if they're requiring even individual commissioners in the SMDs to sign off on trash can requests, it would be great if they could build in a proactive process to let us know when trash can requests are received in our SMD, so that we know whether it's happening, even if a requesting resident doesn't know that they're supposed to bring it to our attention.
Okay, so follow up, definitely.
Commissioner Lucarelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Barbara, thank you for coming to tonight's meeting. I appreciate your testimony. I have a question also about trash cans. Oftentimes you see them full or overflowing, and I imagine that with more trash cans, there's more places that litter can go, and so it places less strain on the existing bins that are out there. This is kind of there's no right or wrong answer here, I think, but in your understanding of how the agency works, do you think that they have enough capacity to address, the potential influx in cans? I just want to make sure that there's some sort of metric or process in place whereby, when they see that there's, X number of cans in a specific area, they know to, send so many people out. within that vicinity, because I would hate to see just more cans that just get filled to the brim, and then you have a public
Or-
health issue. So sorry for phrasing that so strangely.
No, that's a great question. And I actually attended a meeting another ANC meeting with the director of DPW there. And that same question came up, and their response was that they will have enough staff to empty these trash cans. They have also started, when the trash can is full, as you all know, they sometimes go through the trash to try to determine if they can locate a resident, what resident put that trash there, and they will find that resident if they find something in that trash can with your home address on it. You will get a fine. So they have continued to, I guess, investigate the overflowing trash cans of why trash from a home is being put there. But they said that they are confident that they'll have enough staff to be able to empty these trash cans on a regular basis.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it's alarming, but not surprising to hear that people are throwing their own waste in the garbage cans. Anecdotally, when I walk by them and they're overflowing, it's generally dog waste, which is why I was saying it's kind of a public health issue. When that gets into the drains, it creates a lot of headache, and we drink from that water after it's treated, so we want to keep that out. And so it just has me thinking if there's a better way to collect this stuff. Because on the weekend, I grew up with pets, I have pets. And so, everybody poops, as they say. But it definitely gets bad in the summer. And so, I'll keep my eye on it. That's all. And
Okay.
When to talk about it, your answer was satisfactory to me. And that's all I got.
Thank
And
you.
to follow up quickly on that point, there is an office for Office of a Clean City, I believe it's called, and they're sort of responsible in working with the community to ensure that, for example, there are bags available within the pet collection, whatever their containers, I guess we want to call them. And so I'm in the process of trying to coordinate with that office with DPW, because technically DPW is not necessarily responsible for the pet waste bags that are available. And so it's a matter of coordinating efforts as well.
Thank you, commissioners. Commissioner Pinckney.
Yes, hi, good evening.
Ms. Pink,
Hello, how are you today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Fine. In reference to the trash cans, I know we have one issue about trash cans near the rec center up here. My brain just went numb right there. But the issue is that they need a few more trash cans at the rec center, but we need to request pickup of the trash for twice or 3 times a week, because it's people from all over, this area, even outside of Ward 4, go to the community center, the kids, the adults, whatever. So even with the trash cans, we need to be able to ask for places like that to serve the public, for them to come by more often. So when it comes to that type of request, does the request still have to come from the commission, or can an ordinary citizen, when they call 311, also request that it be picked up every week, 3 days a week? Or how does that work? And do you all allow individuals to ask for numbers of times a week to pull the trash? Or is
And
there
which rec center is that?
if I can get some help from the commissioner, the rec center up the street.
Emory Heights.
Yes, Emery, thank you. See, my brain.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. I am happy to email DPW to get what the schedule is there at Emory
mhm.
and see about maybe getting, the trash picked up a little more often, and I can get back with you, Commissioner Pinckney.
Yes, and they also, because they took some trash cans away, so they need to install a bit more.
I'm looking for it right now.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I think someone might be off mute, Commissioner Pinckney. Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Rogers from the general public? Hearing none, thank you, Ms. Rogers, as always, for joining us. We appreciate your.
All right. Thank you all.
Next up, we have someone from the mayor's office. We have Director Ali Kaba, who's going to be talking about the mayor's budget proposal. So, Mr. Kaba.
Yes, greetings, everyone. So my name is Ali Kaba, and I have the privilege to serve as the director of the DC Mayor's Office on African Affairs. So we are mandated by the mayor to ensure that African residents in the district have equal access to government services, program, and initiatives. And we monitor delivery of services and provide policy recommendation to the mayor to ensure those communities' welfare. So it is a great honor for me to be here today and present the mayor's budget. If you allow me, I'll share my screen with you just to be able to present Mayor Bowser FY24 budget.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we need Commissioner Judson to give you access to be able to share your screen, Mr. Kaba, but we should be able to do that.
Yes,
You
give me one
Just bear with
second.
us a second.
Yeah, I'm just changing the settings. Okay, you should be able to now,
All right, let me try again.
but let me know if not.
Perfect. Can you see it?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
All right, perfect. So as I said, our goal is to really support the social integration of our African residents in the district, their civic engagement and economic development. So I want to thank you all for having me today. And I'll go ahead now and present the mayor's budget. So as the mayor said, it's time to focus on our city long-term growth. It's time for the DC's comeback, which is the economic development strategy for the next 5 years put together by the mayors and the executive team. So we have spent the last 3 years responding to and recovering from the pandemic. The investment we made in DC's recovery plan are working, and we have more jobs, lower unemployment, more visitors, and our hotel and restaurant are filling up again. However, the long-term impact of high inflation and telework are having a significant impact. The FY24 Fair Share budget acknowledges the economic realities we face by prioritizing the most critical investment needed to make DC a place where we can all call home, do business, and visit. So the context in which this budget was constructed is the following. Our resources are shrinking. According to the February CFO forecast, we can identify a drop in revenues of more than 390 million, largely due to a slowdown in the economy as a result of high inflation and drop in stock market, a reduction in revenue from falling commercial real estate values as the long-term impact of telework. And we have the end of a historic once in a life influx of federal funds that we receive from federal government in terms of grant into DC government universities, hospital, and nonprofit organizations. So while the resources are shrinking, the costs are increasing. So we have a fall. We have 558 million to fully fund all of our collective bargaining agreement with our teachers, firefighters, police officers, schools principals, and many more critical DC government workers. We also had 481 million to fully fund DC government retirement account and 124 million to fund cost increase and inflation for existing schools, park and recreation, and library projects. So after the CFO released the February revenue estimate, the district was facing a deficit of 1.7 billion. So now what has the executive branch has done to balance this budget? First is to tap 257 million from the fiscal stabilization reserve. Second, we work with the CFO to certify 578 million in anticipated automated traffic enforcement revenue from new cameras. And this was approved in FY22 and 23. We also maximized 148 million in federal reimbursement from the pandemic and made 373 million of reduction, including the elimination of 749 vacant positions. This also includes programmatic reduction. So the DC recovery plan investment actually worked. In FY22, the district added 3,000 new residents, reversing the downward population trend resulting from the pandemic. We're able to create over 14,000 hospitality and retail jobs, reduce the unemployment rate to 4.6%, down from 6.5% a year ago. We increased the number of hotel room days sold by 84% from the prior year, bringing hotel occupancy nearly back to the pre-pandemic level. So DC was the only city where the public school system in the region grew its student population. So you can see on the left the major investment that have been made, including the 540 million to produce and preserve more affordable housing. We have over 800 million in learning acceleration and school support that will provide for more than 555,000 hours of high impact tutoring, devices, and social emotional learning. So the budget was constructed around our guiding values, which are driving DC combat, the downtown recovery, and long-term economic growth by maximizing investment to help us grow our population, our jobs, and tax bases, investing in our resident families and neighborhood to help residents grow their income and increase equity, strengthening services, focusing on crime reduction and prosperity for residents through life-changing education and workforce opportunities. Getting back to basics by improving core government services and the customer experience, building sustainability and resiliency in the budget by right-sizing our investment and eliminating low-return programs. Now, the executive branch and the council agree on certain priorities. We received almost 500 budget requests from council members, totaling more than 2.5 billion. So while we could not fund all of the ask, we were able to make investment in the top area all council members called for. This includes school and recreation center modernization, improvement including small capital repairs, behavioral health services, food access, downtown recovery, safer street, increased access to bike, pedestrian, and bus mobility and safety, out of school time programming. So how you can see in FY24, the most significant increased investment was toward the collective bargaining agreement, retirement account, schools, Medicaid, fixed cost and facility maintenance, plus debt services to support planned capital investment. So the major investment were in human support services. It's traditionally done, 6.29 billion, public education system, financing and others, public safety, 1.66 billion, operation and infrastructure. Now the capital budget. So we have an investment of 5.6 billion in operation and infrastructure, 3.3 billion for public education system, and 670 billion for public safety and justice. So flat revenues are limited new borrowing, limited new borrowing capacity for the city, while higher interest rates have raised the cost for borrowing. So despite this limitation, the CIP adds new pace school modernization and makes another historic investment in school HVAC, doubles down on roadway redesigns and other Vision Zero safety improvements, keeps recreation center modernization and other major commitment on track despite rising costs. Now the DC comebacks. So now we're going to talk about the new investment we are making in FY24. So for DC comebacks, the city is investing 9.8 million, allocating 9.8 million to fund improvement at Farragut Square, 3 million for Great Streets and Small Business Fund, 1.5 million in additional fund for participating businesses in creative and open space modernization. And it also includes 79 million to unlock Fletcher Johnson, Poplar Point, and bring a full service grocery to East Capitol Gateway. In the sector of education, we have an allocation of 145 million to support 1.5 increase to the foundation of the UPSFF, 20 million to continue supporting schools feeling the effect of the pandemic through the Mayor's Recovery Funds. We have 116 million to support raising the wages of teachers in both public and public charter schools. We also have 1.6 million to begin planning and implementing a teacher apprenticeship program to train future teachers in the district. Another important allocation is raising the eligibility for childcare subsidy from 250% of the federal poverty line to 300% of the federal poverty line. So the major capital investment in the sector of education are the following. So 110 million to turn the old Banneker School into the new Center City Middle School, the 2.1 billion to continue the modernization or expansion of 40 other schools, including PACE and non-PACE projects, 90 million over 6 years for DCPS to preserve and maintain school facilities through small capital investment in HVAC, life safety needs, athletic field repair, and upgrade and ADA compliance. You can see the other budget allocation. I'll move a little bit quickly so that I can I don't use all of your time. So in terms of, in the sector of recreation, what also we are doing, it's helping DC stay cool and safe. So we have 1.9 million to support extended pool hours at Balo High School for the public and provide janitorial services for all outdoor and DCPS pool. We have 5 million splash pad refresh to renovate the outdoor splash pad at 14th and Park in Columbia Heights and at the Tacoma Ward 4. We have 6 million in additional funding for Walter Reed Pool, 5.7 million to replace Rosedale Pool, and 12 million for the Rumsey Aquatic Center modernization. So as new investment, we are making 750,000 for the conversion of 4 underutilized tennis and basketball courts into pickleball court. We also have 1.1 million to support operation at DPR facilities to set open in the fiscal year, including Macmillan Community Center, Joy Events, Therapeutic Recreation Community Center, Steed Park Recreation Center. And then we have 932,000 for enhanced security services at DPR priority sites. In the sector of transportation, safety, and mobility, the Mayor's Task Force on Automated Traffic Enforcement, Equity, and Safety, chaired by the Chief Equity Officer and Deputy Mayor for Operation and Infrastructure. The task force will study and make recommendations to maximize the efficacy of ATE program in reducing the frequency and severity of crashes and roadway injuries. It also mitigates against the potentially inequitable effect of flat fines on individuals of varying household income. So we are allocating 2 million. 2 million has been set aside in FY24 to begin piloting strategies and ideas from the task force. So I'll move on now to the legacy initiative and public housing. So what we are doing now, it's allocated 1 million for Harris Property Services, 2.2 million for single family residential rehab, and 10 million for Black ownership farm. And for FY24, we're planning to fund the Housing Production Trust Fund at $100 million. That's an increase of 31 million. 1.5 million enhancement for Harris Property Services, 2 million to increase available fund for single family residential rehab, 8 million to increase available down payment assistance through Housing Purchasing Assistance Program. In terms of public safety now, a new investment for FY24 funding the Second Chance Amendment Act Criminal Record Selling, 6.7 million for grants for victims of sexual assault and other victim services, including crisis intervention and advocacy. Something important to mention here is the effort made to maintain a strong MPD. So continuing investment in recruitment and conversion bonuses for new hires. So 5.4 million and expanded educational incentive of 1.2 million, 2.1 million and 18 additional staff to support civilianization effort, reducing the needs for sworn officers to cover civilian roles and duties. 1.5 million for 6 staff and programming for diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as employee wellness and well-being to help retain officers. Now, health and human services. In FY24, the budget allocated 42 million to support rental assistance through family rehousing stabilization program. 24.4 million to provide increased Medicaid rates for services in the behavioral health sector. We also have 1.7 million to support housing case management services for behavioral health service clients. Now, the government services for FY24, the budget allocated 2.5 million to create a new recruitment and retention fund for hard-to-fill DC government positions, such as 911 call takers and social workers. They're also allocating 4.5 million to expand HVAC preventative maintenance to non-DCPS facilities. 6.9 million in new dedicated work order response funding. And we have 4.5 million for a new one-stop web portal for resident services. So I think I went through all the budget allocation. I'll share the PowerPoint with you in case you want to get more information from it. I'll also leave my email address for any, question you may have now or later. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kaba, for joining us this evening. We appreciate it. And if you perhaps stop sharing your screen, then we can go back to our usual view, if you don't mind. Perfect, thank you. Are there any quick questions from any of the commissioners? If not, Mr. Kaba, if you wouldn't mind
I have
leaving.
a,
Yes,
sorry
please.
about that. I just have a couple of questions, Mr. Kaba, actually one specifically. When I met with our council member, she stated that throughout the city, there are challenges regarding agency recruitment in terms of DPW workers, police officers, obviously. Are there sort of concerted efforts within the budget to focus on those recruitment challenges? And it's not a DC only challenge. I understand that it's happening throughout the country, given COVID, et cetera. But is the mayor's budget, as it says, goes back to basics? Does that include actually recruiting workers to add to the DC workforce?
Yes, it does. Actually, I probably will ask a second to brief. This exercise was pretty hectic for me, as you can hear my accent. I should have done this in French and asked for an interpreter. The good thing is that what makes DC unique really is that we have a Language Access Act here, like the Language Access Act of 2004 that require DC government agencies to provide their services in the language spoken by the different immigrant communities. For Africans, for example, is French, Amharic, and Arabic. So that law allowed me to get my first job within DC government as the first language access coordinator, liaison to the Francophone African community. I'm saying that to get to your question, not even talking about the budget first, what the Mayor's Office on African Affairs does is to use this Language Access Act of 2004 to host multilingual, bilingual job fairs. So we partner with different DC government agencies, including DPW, DGS, DOES. So organizations that provide critical services to our community members. So one, that allow the city to recruit talented people, but also multilingual people that can serve diverse community. Today we had, I mean, the Mayor's Office on Community Affairs, because the Office on African Affairs is under the Mayor's Office of Community Affairs. We host, I'll say, monthly or bi-monthly job fair, resource fair, working with the 39 DC government agencies mentioned under the Language Access Act. So I want to say, in a way or another, it's included in the budget, but it's the engagement and effort in every agency that will support the hiring of needed talents.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lucarelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Mr. Kaba, thank you for coming and presenting that exhaustive report. My question is really brief, but it touches on what Commissioner Corneliotis was talking about, and that is staffing. I'm pleased to see that the mayor is proposing an aggressive number of traffic enforcement cameras, but as we all know, the city has struggled to boot and remove the vehicles from the road. And as we've seen time and time again, these really serious crashes where there's loss of life, limb, or property, the drivers have, thousands of dollars in tickets. So I just want to ask are you aware how much of this money is going to go towards hiring folks whose sole job it may be to just go out there and boot these darn vehicles? Because I mean, it's a pestilence and it's a public health emergency. And thank you for your time.
No, thank you, and thank you for your questions. Always unfortunate when a life is lost. Fortunately, I won't be able to tell you the portion of the budget allocated to hiring people to enforce that, but I can follow up later. I can follow up with you.
Yeah, that's fine. If you could just put your email in the chat, that way I'll send you a message, because I'm sure you're going to be bombarded with a lot of requests just across the board. Thank you.
There you go. Thank you.
Mr. Kaba, we very much appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us this evening and for all your work on this.
Oh, thank you for having me. Mm-hmm.
Great. Next up, we have a representative from the Office of Campaign Finance. Is someone here, Natasha Alexander? Nope, no response. Okay. Anyone here from Lead Free DC?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, thank you for joining us. The next 5 or 10 minutes are yours, sir.
Perfect. Am I able to share my screen?
Yes, Commissioner Judson, are you able to make that happen?
Yes, you should be able to.
All right. So good evening, everyone. My name is Sean Moore. I'm with DC Water, and I'm focused on DC Water's Lead Free DC program. And I'm glad to be here with this opportunity to talk to you folks at ANC 4D. So just the quick takeaways and the things I want you to hear from this presentation. First is Lead Free DC is DC Water's plan to eliminate lead service lines in the city by 2030. 2, we have resources that you can learn more about lead pipes. We have our lead inbox where you can send an email. We have our lead hotline, and we have our lead map on our website, so you can determine if you have lead pipes in your home. And the third, let you know that there will be free lead pipe replacements for homeowners on certain blocks in ANC 4D. And for the folks who get agreements or get notifications about that free lead pipe replacement, we ask that you would return those agreements as soon as possible. So just a little bit more about Lead Free DC. So DC Water's goal is to eliminate all 28,000 lead water service lines in the city by 2030. So we only have 7 short years to do that. Every year with support from the district, DC Water launches new capital projects which allow us to replace lead service lines as well as to verify the material of service lines. And that's the information that you find on that lead map on our website. So what's the big deal with lead? So, and who's the most vulnerable to exposure? So first things first, there is no safe level of lead. Lead is toxic for human beings. So just state it. So, and exposure to lead in drinking water has serious health effects in all age groups, from babies where it can cause birth defects and other issues in pregnant women. You have issues with young children with learning and behavior problems. You have, in adults, you have a higher risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, kidney and nervous system problems. So lead is not a good thing. All right, so I want to tell you a little bit about this project and about what we're doing. But first, I want to explain to you about the water service line. So the key thing here is DC Water has eliminated, there's no lead in the water system, except there may be lead that goes between the water main in the street and into the house via the water service line. So you can see in the diagram to the right, it'll show you the public water main in the street. You have a water pipe that goes from the street when it hits the property line, and then it goes from there into the homeowner, into the house. Key thing, the homeowner owns the entire service line. That's a key part. But DC Water is responsible for maintaining the portion that's in the public space, and DC Water can use public funds to manage that process. The private side is different. The private side is owned by the homeowner, and it's responsibility of the homeowner to replace that if they have lead or other water service lines. But through special funding, which I'll talk about in just a few minutes, DC Water is able to do some lead service line replacements on private property for free. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. But first, let's talk about the types of pipes that you'll see here in DC. First, there's the lead pipes, which we definitely want to get rid of. And those are dull silver gray pipe that you can scratch easily with a coin. If you use a magnet, it won't stick to a lead pipe. You also have galvanized pipes, which are dull and silver gray as well. But if you use a magnet, a strong magnet will stick to a galvanized steel pipe. You have copper, which is what the preferred material is. Then you have plastic as well as brass pipes. So a little bit more about lead-free DC and what it is. So we have 3 programs that encompass our lead-free DC program. So we have our CYPER, which is what I'm going to talk about by block in a moment, but CYPER is capital improvement. We have an LPRAP program, and we have a VFRP program. So what's the difference between those programs and what do they mean? So first, if you hear us say CYPER, what that is capital improvements. So anything that's DC Water initiated is part of our CYPER or capital improvement plan. So through the capital improvements, when we're doing small diameter water main replacements in the street, we will replace the entire water main and all the water service lines on that street, both public and private. So that's a capital improvement project. So we're able to use that money, DC Water money, to pay for that. We have a new program, which is our buy block program, which is also allows DC Water to use special funding to pay for private lead service line replacements on private property. So, and next we have customer initiated programs. We have our LPRAP program, which is our lead pipe replacement assistance program. And this is only, used when the public side is copper, but the private side is lead. And in that instance, in partnership with DOEE, customers can get a 50 to 100% reduction on the cost of a replacement based on income and household size. And then the third program is our VFRP program, which is our voluntary full replacement program. And this is when both sides of the water service line are lead, but the homeowner wants to go ahead and pay for that to be replaced. With a voluntary replacement, the homeowner will pay the full cost to replace the private side, but DC Water always pays to replace any, pipes in public space. So that's the voluntary program. So for lead-free DC and the BiBlock program, which I'm about to talk about, it's DC Water has special funding to do this, and they choose new blocks every year to be a part of the BiBlock program. So they choose blocks from, we choose blocks from all over the city, and those blocks are chosen based on a number of factors. There's this prioritization model that we put all this information into. We look at the presence of children or vulnerable populations, schools, daycare centers. We look at economic and underserved areas. We look at the concentration of lead pipes in a particular area. So all that information goes into this model. And from that model, we choose blocks from across the city that will be eligible to participate in the BiBlock program that year. Okay. So this is an example of what just some pictures from what a service line replacement project looks like. So with a BiBlock project, like I said, DC Water pays the cost for the private side replacement. It's free for homeowners because we have special funding. You can see a couple of examples over here. There's a test pit, the first picture where you see the person standing with the orange shovel. They dig a test pit at the property line as well as in the yard to determine or verify the pipe material. You'll see, construction, they'll pull out the lead or galvanized iron pipes. And you can see in the bottom right where they're replacing that with copper. So everything, once they do all of that, everything is restored in kind. So the goal is to leave it the way they found it. So I mean, that's how we do it in this project. So if you are a part of the BiBlock for any service line replacement, you do have to be home. And the key piece of it is if you are eligible for one, we need you to sign the agreement and return it to DC Water. So here's where we are right now in Ward 4. So ANC 4D, you guys are doing pretty good. There's 166 premises in 4D. We have 65 signed and 101. I'm sorry, that's wrong. That is wrong, but I think I have something flipped here, but you are at 64%. I think I flipped the numbers. So excuse me for that. I just realized I typed it wrong. But overall, Ward 4 is at 43%. I'll correct my numbers and resend this out to you guys so you have it. But if you do receive information, a letter from DC Water or a notification that you are part of the BiBlock program, we encourage you to please sign the agreement and return it to DC Water. And part of the reason I'm here talking about this is that we want everyone's help to do this because this is a citywide program. It's not just in any one individual neighborhood. Like I said, there's blocks from all over the city. So if anyone receives information or they're told that, hey, you're eligible for a free service line replacement, please go ahead and sign up and return the agreement. And for areas, if be on the lookout. We have our canvassing team out talking about lead-free DC, and we just encourage residents to visit dcwater.com/lead to learn more about service line replacements and to just get more information. So all things about lead-free DC are on dcwater.com/lead. We have a construction dashboard. You can look up blocks and figure out where construction is about to happen. There's fact sheets. Our plan is there. There's that lead map where you can look to see if your home has lead service lines or whatever type of material that we have in our records for your home. So all that information is available for you at dcwater.com/lead. And here's my one plug for me is we have a survey, and I would ask that you please take a moment to do the survey. We appreciate you listening to this presentation, but that survey helps me to do better, and it helps us all to do better, to make sure that we're communicating the right information and that you're understanding about lead-free DC, or if you have any comments or feedback to help us with our messaging. So you have the QR code there, and we also have the link here. I would ask if you guys could put the link in the chat for me so that residents can visit there and reply to the survey. And that's for ANC commissioners as well as attendees at this meeting. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. And that's all I have. So again, resources, lead at DC Water, our lead hotline, 787-4044, and everything else can be found at dcwater.com/lead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Thank you for coming tonight and for this important work. In the interest of time, questions from, looks like questions first from Commissioner George.
Thank you so much for presenting about this really important program. We really appreciate it. From your presentation, it sounds like there are about 60-ish premises that are eligible for free service line replacement, but have not yet signed the paperwork. Are you able to share those addresses with us, or are you all sending people to like knock on doors and let them know to try and follow up? Is there anything that the commission can be doing to help make sure that those people avail themselves of this service?
Yes, so we are sending people out to knock on doors in campus and neighborhoods, but I will send the commissioners a list of blocks that are in ANC 4D with the addresses so that you can know which homes were selected to be a part of the program for fiscal year 2023. So I'll send that out to the commissioners.
Commissioner Lucarelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, sir, for the presentation. My question is simple. Are we getting pipe upgrades with new development? Like when someone comes in and develops property, whether it's commercial, residential, or mixed in use, are we asking them to upgrade the pipes if they're contaminated?
I mean, if there's a lead service line, whenever any construction is about to happen, those have to be replaced. If you have a lead water service line and you go to sell your house, that has to be noted. You have to tell people, hey, I have a lead water service line. But anytime any construction would happen, yes, you have to replace that. And any developer or anyone building a new building would use copper. Because and you want to use copper because that's the gold standard of material for water service lines.
Yeah, and as a follow-up, do you know if we're getting in some instances increased capacity in addition to new copper lines? I mean, I guess it'd be case by case, but
I mean, typically the water service lines are, we're replacing with 1-inch copper. So, you may have 3/4 inch, lead or something, or 1-inch lead pipes, but we're replacing pretty much everything with 1-inch copper pipes. If you have something larger, I'm not positive how that's handled. So if you have a larger water service line, I would have to check on that for you. Because I don't want to give you an incorrect answer.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Cornelius.
Good evening, Mr. Moore. Thank you for your presentation. I'm currently experiencing, and I know this isn't your area specifically, but my alley is currently under construction and getting permeable pavers. And I can just say from my experience thus far, and it's been maybe 2 weeks, the workmanship is very, what I would call sloppy at best. And I've noticed that not only myself, but my neighbors, their property has been somewhat damaged in terms of their fences have been altered a bit, etc. How can we, if we partake, obviously from a public health perspective, if our pipes are outdated, they should be replaced. But at the same time, what is sort of the timeline of this? And is the workmanship done in haste or is it done correctly?
So the timeline, just so we're really, construction is kicking off for this year, pretty much end of the month, going forward, so we'll be doing, a plethora of replacements, throughout the rest of the year. In terms of, quality, when I said before that our contractors are to leave it or to return it as close to how they found it as possible. So, they'll dig a hole, they'll put grass and straw back over it. The curbs will be replaced, the streets will be repaved. Anything that's done, it will be restored. So DC Water's committed to having our contractors who are doing the work to do a good job, and we're going to hold them accountable, for any issues that occur during a lead service line replacement.
Thank you very much. And can you share the presentation?
Yes, I sent it to Commissioner Parati earlier.
Okay, thank you.
But I'll correct the slide and resend it.
Commissioner Pinckney.
Yes. Good evening. Thank you for your presentation. I've already been sharing that program with several of my constituents. I'm here today. Oh, you're welcome. I'm here today because in my building, I'm in a new senior building on Kennedy Street. I'm not sure if this is under your purview, but it does concern water. Now, in our building, most of our systems are newer systems. However, when I first moved in here, well, each one of our units has an individual water tank, which means that they're probably paying based on our individual units. However, collectively, there are 38 homes in this building, but collectively, we continue to get the aroma of sewage or some other smell coming through a pipe that goes from the first floor or wherever the room is that maintains the system up, and the fragrance into our homes is not pleasant. Apparently there's a new system in our building, but the maintenance of it is lacking. I don't know if the people just don't know how to maintain or how to service or whatever, but it's become a problem. Well, it was a problem in the beginning, but we've been here now almost 2 years and it still continues. But it also appears in our running water sometimes, the smell of it. And if I wash my hands or put my hand in the water while this is happening, the smell of it is actually in the water. I'm sharing this now because we really need some help. This is a senior building, and I've lived in a home all my life. So I know certain things and certain systems, but I do know that what's happening here is not acceptable. But we need some type of, you know, help, somebody to either come in and evaluate it or get them trained into how to really work with this system. And there are some residents who even have the smell in their kitchen water and the bathroom water. You know, I know with dishwashers, you have to run them because, you know, that's just what you have to do, but still that smell should not be there. And the smell should not be coming out into the, you know, my living space. So I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but if it's not you who could help look into this, maybe you can tell me who I need to talk to, because the people in my building are also my constituents.
So Commissioner, what I could do is I could definitely go back to the folks at DC Water and get some direction as to how or what we could possibly do to help you out in that situation. So I will contact you, you know, offline, and you know, I'm not sure what, you know, our involvement would be in that, but I will do what, you know, I'll work with you to you know, do whatever we can on the DC Water side.
Okay, well, I'll get your direct number from our chair.
Okay.
Or if, I don't know if you give it out now or later.
You can get it from yeah.
I'll pass it along, Commissioner.
Yes,
Thank you.
please, because
Okay.
I don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
But thank you for listening.
Oh, no problem. You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Moore. We appreciate your time. If there are any other questions for you specifically about the DC lead pipe replacement, would it be okay if people contacted you at your email address directly?
Yes, yes. So they can do lead at dcwater.com, or me, which is Sean.Moore at dcwater.com, and Sean is spelled SEAN.MOORE at dcwater.com.
Thank you so very much. We appreciate your time and the work that you're doing here.
And hey, Commissioner Perotti, thanks for making me a commissioner.
Oh, Mr. Moore, well, you're an honorary commissioner.
I'm honorary now.
Yeah, it's an honor to be a commissioner in 4D. You should be honored.
Next up.
Well, thank you so much. Everyone have a great evening.
Thank you for coming. Next up, we have a representative from DC Public Library.
Hey, Commissioner, how are you?
All right, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your presence.
Absolutely. Can you tell me how much time I've got to present?
Let's say about 10 or 15 minutes. Does that work?
Yeah, I'll go fast.
Okay.
But it's important for me to provide some context, and appreciate it. I realize that it's getting late. So I will also share my screen. So Commissioner Hudson, I believe, can you?
Yeah, you should be good to go.
Awesome. Oh, no. It's not allowing me to share. You know what? Is it possible? Can I share a link with somebody who can maybe share it from their machine? I'm getting an error on my Mac saying I've got to open my system preferences, and I've tried that and it didn't work.
Commissioner Judson, would you be able to do that? Would you mind?
Yeah, no problem.
You know, let me try one more thing. I'm sorry.
Okay, no. I just I'm pausing because I don't have my email address memorized, but my ANC one, that is. But let me pull it up while you try something. And I just checked. You should be good settings wise, but sounds like maybe your computer.
Could he send
could you
the
just
link
message
to you
the
in
link
chat?
in the chat?
I might have fixed it.
Oh,
we can see it now. Thank you.
Yeah,
Great.
You're good.
Do you see something called the Blueprint for Change?
Yes, we do.
Awesome. Great. Sorry. Thanks, folks. So thanks for having me. I think I heard from some of you at the budget hearing last week. I'm Rich Reyes-Gavilan. I'm the director of the DC Public Library. And I think I last presented to ANC 4D about a year ago, a little over a year ago in March for when Renee Bowser was chair. But thanks for having me back, and I've got my timer going, so I will make sure to stay within 10-15 minutes, and I'll try to avoid repeating myself for those of you who were here last year. Historical context of what we're trying to do at the library is really important. And for those of you who don't know, in 2006, there was an effort made to vastly improve and update what was a really moribund library system here in DC. Mayor Tony Williams commissioned this blue ribbon task force made up of stakeholders from the city and also important library people from around the country to really think about what it would mean to change the library system. It's a 400-page document. You can see it online. And it really, I think, boils down to two things. Modernizing every single library in every neighborhood in Washington, D.C. In 2006, all the libraries were really old and outdated. And also build a state-of-the-art central library to address the woeful state of the Martin Luther King Library. Of course, at the time, they were thinking about moving out of MLK, but the premise is the same. A great city needs a great central library. So that was my predecessor's charge here. And it's also my charge when I was hired in 2014, renovate, or I should say modernize or rebuild every library and a central library. We still have not done the Chevy Chase Library and the Shepherd Park Library. And those are the two remaining buildings from the original suite of libraries that needed to be modernized. So 14 years later, in 2020, we published another plan, not exactly a blue ribbon update, but one designed really to address maintenance, to address adaptability, and to address sort of smart growth of the library system. That assessment identified, it did a lot of things, but I think from the point of the sort of public's imagination, this is what's most important, and that it identified these sort of 6 areas where new library services could be introduced in the form of either new buildings or better outreach, outreach and services to the community absent of new building. And one of those 6 areas, as you all know, is the sort of Brightwood Park, Manor Park neighborhood. One of the recommendations in the plan was to explore whether instead of rebuilding the aforementioned Shepherd Park Library or modernizing the Shepherd Park Library on site, maybe we could move it south to serve not only Shepherd Park, but Brightwood Park and Manor Park, and even the parks at Walter Reed, which was sort of in development and currently is in development. The report states that all the proposed projects in the plan would require neighborhood studies, engagement to determine if they were feasible. And one aspect of feasibility is broad, if not overwhelming, community support, which I'm sure those of you who attended the budget hearing last week know that there is not overwhelming community support for a relocation of the Shepherd Park Library. There is support for sure, but it's not a sort of a kind of a slam dunk. Furthermore, the report states that the recommendations in it are, it's not a commitment to any specific project. Formal action is still required by my bosses, the Library Board of Trustees, the mayor, and the council, and that all has to happen for any of the proposed recommendations to move forward. And finally, and I'm going to spend a minute here as I sort of really rush through this, and I apologize. The most important caveat for me, somebody who's been working in libraries now for 30 years, is this caveat in the plan that says it was created prior to the development of COVID-19 outbreak, and it may have a profound long-term impact on city services. Now, not only has COVID had profound impacts on city services, but it's really having a profound impact on how libraries, especially physical libraries, are used, and not just in DC, but all over North America, including Canada. I'm very tight with about 150 library directors all over North America, and we are experiencing many of the same things. And, you know, so what are we seeing? Right now, on average, people are physically visiting our libraries a lot less than they were pre-pandemic. So here's a graph that, first of all, I should say this excludes the Martin Luther King Library, which was closed in 2019. So it wouldn't be an apples to apples comparison. With that said, back in 2019, pre-pandemic, there were about 3.8 million visits to DC public library neighborhood branch libraries. And that number in FY22, again, what I call post-vaccination, is now at about 2 million visits per year. It's a pretty staggering decline in physical visits. Remember, in FY22, we were fully open, again, vaccinated, people with, you know, our programming was largely back in place. So this wasn't a drop off because we were offering fewer services. It really was a drop off because people with access to the library in 2019 simply didn't go in 2022. Many people. And you might say, well, that was just 2022. It was post-vaccine. It's still the pandemic, so things are probably you know, different in 2023. The answer to that question is not exactly. Here is a, I guess, hot off the presses comparison of visits to libraries in the first half of 2022 versus the first half of 2023, which ended just a few short weeks ago on March 31st, 2023. So even in the first half of 2023, we have a drop off from where we were just last year. So these are both post-vaccine. Obviously, 2023 is more post-vaccine than 2022, and there's still a drop off. And not only that, if you look at that little call out box on the right, we actually, and some of you may remember, we added 9 hours of service across the vast majority of our branches in 2023, specifically on November. So 5 out of the 6 months that we're talking about in Q1, Q2, we added 9 hours of service, and the numbers are still going down in terms of physical visits to libraries. So what exactly is going on? Frankly, a lot of what we're seeing, a lot of what we were seeing pre-pandemic, we are seeing now sort of post-vaccine, but in just in ways that I and many of my colleagues are, again, around the country are pretty surprised by. You know, we knew that ebooks were penetrating the reading market, but now it's gotten to a point where ebooks are more popular than print books, even at DC Public Library. We've got a great expanding suite of online content, services, programming. We've got great direct-to-home initiatives. We've just finished rolling out 10,000 Chromebooks that are internet-enabled through partner organizations like the Department of Aging and Community Living and the Department of Returning Citizens Affairs. We continue to do programs like Books from Birth, where we deliver books to the families of kids who are 0 to 5. We introduced a new program last year with private funding to address the needs of kids who are 5 to 8. So all of this is, you know, going direct to people's homes. This fourth bullet is really important. We know that during the pandemic, residents were prioritizing ownership of technology. So we've seen computer use go down drastically in a lot of our libraries. And then some of the things that you all know, you know, people are working remotely. That means that they are just not leaving their house as much. And they're attending virtual meetings like this one. You know, the meetings that were taking place in libraries are simply not taking place in libraries. And this last one, which might be a bit more, you know, predictable in terms of this is going to end at some point. There are public safety concerns that we're hearing from our from constituents, from users, and from our staff that are preventing people from coming to the library, especially after hours. So let me back up. I just wanted to provide a little bit of context of why I have been preaching caution around adding libraries to the physical campus. This is a snapshot of the existing funded library projects in the city, not including some of our big sort of small capital projects, one in which is taking place in Petworth that you probably all know about, hopefully early next year, but also a big small capital project in Shaw, just a little bit to the south of you all. So we've got a whole host of projects that are in some phase of either pre-design or design, or are waiting for things to happen before they can begin. I'm really proud that 5 of these projects are going to be expansion projects, right? So we determined a while ago, especially during our facilities master planning project, that those libraries like the Deanwood Library or the Parklands Turner Library, these 5,000 square foot libraries, are not serving anyone the way that they need to be served. And so we have a budget to replace all those small libraries with full-size libraries. And our full-size library is roughly about 20,000 square feet. So it's a full deck, and this is easily going to take us into the next decade. Unfortunately, those 5 expansion projects are going to require us to secure at least 30 additional FTE to keep those libraries open the way we are open now, 7 days a week. Unfortunately, and to no surprise, the proposed FY24 budget eliminates 20 of our vacant positions. And as the speaker alluded to earlier, none of us are misguided by, we all know that the economic forecast in the city is dire. So I'm not complaining about having to contribute from the library's standpoint. But that all said, at the end of the day, in the back of my mind, I'm already seeing myself 50 FTE down before even contemplating adding any new libraries, whether it's Brightwood Park or Adams Morgan or in any of the other places identified by the FMP. So, and I'm so sorry, I really tried to speed through it, but I think I did it under 15 minutes. You know, I am not saying that we should never look at a new library in Brightwood Park. Far from it. I'm the biggest champion of libraries in this city and have been for almost 30 years. What I'm saying right now is, based on what the facilities master plan said, that the feasibility of the Shepherd Park moving south is something that we're looking at, but just from the engagement that we've done, it does not appear that that is a project that there is wide support for. And so that leaves us having to deal with Shepherd Park in some way, shape, or form, rebuilding or renovating. And then we still have to think about what happens to some of those service gaps. Are they going to go away based on some of the data that I shared with you in terms of how physical libraries are being used? As I mentioned in my letter to Commissioner Parati, we are expanding outreach into Brightwood Park onto Kennedy Street. Several years ago, I started an outreach team that I'm holding on to for dear life. And they're doing great things like going to different places in the community, signing people up for library cards, distributing free books, those sorts of things. And we will continue doing that until such time that we've got basically better information, a new plan to how to address all the service gaps in the city. But I wanted to present to you all, thanks again for inviting me. I realize some of this is a bit complicated, but I'm hoping that some of this may have cleared up some of the confusion that may have existed in the library's capital improvement plan versus the letter that I sent to you all last week or the week before last. So I'm going to take a breath for a second. And before I stop sharing my screen, I'm going to see if there's anybody who wants me to go back to any of the slides that I shared, or I'm happy to take questions and comments. And again, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us, sir. We appreciate your time and your presence. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners? And I'm not able to see you because of the screen share.
Oh, this is
Can I stop sharing? I'm scared. Should I stop sharing?
Yeah, I think you can safely stop sharing right now.
Great.
Thank you. Commissioner Pinckney.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Commissioner.
Um, okay. I was supposed to testify at the hearing, but they will have my testimony tomorrow. I heard what you said in your presentation. I've read your response to our resolution about adding the library to 5th and Kennedy. I've heard you say that there's a terrific outreach team, etc. Well, before I moved to Kennedy Street, I lived for 4 years up where the other library is. And I suggest, and no, I am surprised that there was any such thing as an outreach committee, because I have never, ever in my whole time living up on up right at the street at the north gate of Walter Reed until this day, have not seen or heard or received an email or anything about the library's actions, etc. The only thing, such as that lovely Tacoma Park Library, what has happened is just an announcement to the community that it's closing. Just announcements. Your engagement of communities gets a failing grade from me. That's one of the biggest issues we have about your plan, because it did say you all were required to engage the communities with making these decisions. And across the board, even in the hearing, we identified the fact that you failed to engage the communities. The fact is, the library up there that sits right across the street from Lido's or whatever, that is relatively new. Even the people who live in that area said there was no need to destruct or tear down that library to put it over in Walter Reed. My other issue is my concern that you as a director would even consider putting a public library on private property. That alone says no. You can't have a public space on private property, because in that private space, that opens up the opportunity for discriminatory practices, and it can be based on anything anybody wants to base it on. Okay, a public library is a public space that the public is free to utilize. The other thing is, I worked in the library when I was in school, Northwestern Senior High School. And giving us books, bringing us whatever does not replace having a library where our students and our families can also participate in library science. Learning how to research even the smallest things is a big part of why we have libraries. It's not just to give us access to books and new ideas, but the libraries in our public schools, many of them don't have full-time librarians. Many of the schools now, because we're teaching the children how to test rather than how to think, have poor relationships with the teachers and the curriculum. Libraries are necessary in communities. We have none. In order to get up to Walter Reed, the Walter Reed complex, I can't even tell you how long it would take someone to get there. Even to get from where we live down to Martin Luther King Library, to go over there to Petworth Library. And I remember growing up, and I just turned 59, Petworth Library has been standing there for a very long time. It has been maintained, okay? But the capacity for that neighborhood, and then you add our neighborhood, is just not adequate. We have a community here in 4D that, well, there was a gentleman at the hearing that said it perfectly. We are a book desert. There are no bookstores in our neighborhood, or hell, any neighborhood that serves minorities. Okay, your outreach has not reached us. And I know it didn't reach the people up in Shepherd Park, because that's where I lived for 4 years. And it never, not a mailing or anything. So I'm just disappointed that your forethought and your value of neighborhoods is clear in how you have made these decisions and the answers that you have given to justify not having a library in our neighborhood. Okay, so
Commissioner,
we're going
Commissioner
on.
Pinckney, I hate to interrupt you, but I'm wondering if maybe we could give Mr. Gavilan a chance to respond so that we can
Yes,
keep
we
other,
can. Yes, we
for other
can.
people.
Thanks, Commissioner Pinckney. So, I mean, you said a lot. So let me see how I can address all of them.
And Mr. Gavilan, I don't mean to interrupt you too, but if this is a more complicated conversation with Professor Commissioner Pinckney, maybe the two of you might want to have a conversation afterwards. So if maybe you could make a kind of brief statement, and then we can kind of get through the other questions quickly.
And I'm happy to do that. Thank you for offering that, Commissioner. I'm happy to speak with any of you offline as long as I need to, because it is a complex thing. No one is saying, and no one is against library in Brightwood Park. What we're trying to manage is a sort of what is the pragmatic approach to implementing the library's facilities plan, which identified the service gap in Brightwood Park. It also identified tons of other problems that we are addressing, and they all can be addressed at the same time. The Shepherd Park Library proposal, and so I just, maybe the one thing I'll say, but Commissioner Pinckney, I'd love to talk to you offline, where you say we've made decisions. We've not made any decisions. And I don't know how I messed up there, but the funding for the Shepherd Park renovation, replacement, movement is in FY27 is when when the funding comes in. So we would not be doing anything until a good time after that. At least that's the way it was originally structured in the facilities plan. But I'm happy to talk to you more about it. Look, I know book deserts. I know everything that you're talking about. But I think that there has been some mischaracterizations around what the library has decided versus what the library was exploring. And it doesn't bring a library to Brightwood Park tomorrow or next year. But I think if nothing else, our facilities master plan has highlighted where we have issues, where we've got surplus, where we've got deficiencies. We are still monitoring how libraries are being used. I think that is a really important part of what we have to do here. I don't think it can be ignored that we've got fewer visits to our library, significantly fewer visits. And I can even break that down further. Where are we seeing fewer visits? What types of communities? It's pretty staggering stuff. But in the interest of time, my email address, Commissioner Pinckney, is rrg@dc.gov. I've got the easiest email address in all of DC, and I would love to follow up with you at your leisure, buy you a coffee, or talk to you over the phone.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
yeah, I would like to do that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a couple other questions from commissioners. In the interest of time, commissioners, if I could just remind you to keep your questions concise and to the point. Commissioner Judson, up first.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here this evening. So my question is, the budget specifically calls out for $25 million to help fill the service gap in Brightwood Park, Manor Park. In your opinion, is building a library in Walter Reed a way to address the service gap?
It's not appearing so. That's one of the things, that was one of our hypotheses, right? Could we do this? And that's what some of the community engagement that we've done thus far was meant to explore. But, I've got, Councilmember Lewis George ringing in my ear, and she's saying, no way. And I'm not going to dispute that. I live in Mount Pleasant. That facilities plan was really meant to be, maybe it was too provocative then. And it said, well, look, if we move it further south, it's possible that we could do it. But it appears to me that even if we had moved it to Brightwood, it would not have been something that would have been looked at favorably. And the fact is that, look, many folks, and I won't say all of them, I won't even say a majority of them who live in Shepherd Park don't even want it to move 2 blocks out. So, obviously this is part of the iterative process of collecting information about what people want. The easy thing would have been say, hey, this works for Brightwood Park because Walter Reed is a destination. It works for Shepherd Park because it's a couple of blocks away. What I'm hearing is that there is no consensus about that.
Thank you. And I know we're short on time, but I just want to say thank you for that. Commissioner Pinckney and I are really happy to collaborate further with you. I think there is a real service gap along Kennedy Street in the Brightwood Park neighborhood. So many daycares, so many families, and we cannot walk to any libraries currently. There are no libraries within walking distance. And so we would love to be able to work with you to figure out how we can bring a library that is accessible to our neighborhoods. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate your testimony last week and your comments today.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cornelius.
Good evening, Mr. Gavilan. Thank you again for coming to this meeting and speaking. I just have one clarifying question. In terms of the current library in Brightwood Park, as Commissioner Pinckney mentioned, it is a relatively new building in comparison to
Shepherd Park.
Shepherd Park. I'm sorry,
Okay,
Shepherd. Whatever. I'm sorry. I apologize. But is renovating or modernizing that building off the table?
No.
Okay.
No,
I want to clarify that.
It's never been off the table. Again, I think part of what we've been trying to do is determine what the appetite is for moving it at all. And I will be flat out honest with you that I have maybe some profound disagreements with people who think that library is great. I think that library was designed in 1985 or 86, and it is a byproduct of a library designed in 1986. I don't think it has any of the sort of collaborative working space, the outdoor space, the beauty, you walk into most of our library systems in DC right now, and you're like, boy, I feel special. This is great. And I don't get that feeling from Shepherd Park. So it, in a best case scenario, it requires a lot of work. That's my informed 30-year opinion of working in libraries. But no, it's not off the table.
Okay, thank you for that. And as I said, or no, I haven't said this, but I come from a family of educators, and one of my aunts in Massachusetts was a senior manager at a library in Springfield, Massachusetts, where Dr. Seuss was born and raised.
Yes, I know that.
So libraries are very useful, and I know as a commission, we want to have more to move towards a hybrid model for our meetings, and there aren't, as Commissioner Judson stated, there aren't many public spaces available to us to hold those meetings. And so that's something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, that is actually one of our wishes for the FY24 budget that understandably could not be fulfilled, was some resources to make our buildings better equipped for hybrid meetings. And that's something that we're going to have to figure out how to do, either with private funding or federal funding or something else.
Commissioner Lucarelli.
Hi, thank you. And Mr. Gavilan, thank you for coming and speaking with us tonight. I actually just have a statement, and you know, if we built bridges based on how many people were swimming across the river, I'm not sure how many bridges would get built. And so what I'm getting at is there's a great need to have a public library in 4D. As Commissioner Judson and others have astutely noted, it's very difficult on foot to get to a library around here, and we have an incredibly diverse population. You know, I walk to the bus every day and I hear different languages spoken the entire way, and so that's one of the reasons I love this neighborhood. And you know, I want the people who live here, who are starting a new life or what have you, you know, to have the same opportunities that I did, which was close access to a public library. And so I would strongly encourage DCPL to work with, you know, everyone necessary to ensure that what was stated in the budget, you know, is a goal that we're all moving towards. Thank you.
I get it. And if you don't mind my just responding to that, Commissioner, look, I get it. You know, we should not be so overwhelmingly focused on, like, what is your foot traffic? How many books are being borrowed? How many computers are being used? What are Wi-Fi numbers? That said, I know many cities in the United States that have overbuilt to the point where their operating budgets are being cut across the board. Their hours are being reduced across the board because they're struggling to keep all these buildings open. So what's happened is that they're providing poor services across the board. And I want to caution us to think about, when you're no longer a commissioner, when I'm no longer the director of the library system, and people are going to say, hey, give me some more data about how these buildings are being used, and help justify why we have to fund them all at 7 days a week of service. Or it's one example, or why do we need a $6 or $7 million book budget? You know, these are the things that will crop up. And I think I'm probably just showing my age now, more than anything, but it's a concern that at some point the shoe will drop, and then cuts will come that will have to be addressed across the system to keep the bill. We haven't talked about the operating budget for all of our buildings, but it's about $2 million a year right now to keep your standard 15 to 20,000 square foot library open for a year. And you know, the reason, for example, back to Ms. Pickney, when wow, we haven't done enough outreach. You know, I struggled to cobble together money to have 5 people who are not devoted to a specific branch, who can go do outreach at a street festival in Oxen Run Park, or on the, you know, at Mount Pleasant Plaza or something like that. So, you know, these are the operating impacts that concern me when we put money into the operating expenses of a new building. It's not something that we should take lightly, but happy to engage with you all some more about that too.
Thank you. Commissioner George.
Thank you so much, and for being with us and taking time late into the evening. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
One question that I just wanted to ask and get clarity on, you know, obviously there's budget for $25 million for a new facility in Brightwood Park. Can you tell me whether it is off the table for that money to be spent on a new library on Kennedy Street, along with, you know, some portion or some other money going towards a renovation of Shepherd Park? Is that specific outcome potentially in play as a way of interpreting a new facility in Brightwood Park?
Let me just say this, that a full renovation of a branch will cost. The last time we did it at the Palisades, and this was in 2018. I think we spent $8.5 or $9 million on a full renovation of that building. You add in what escalation adds to a project, to do something like Shepherd Park, we're probably, and I don't have the numbers, and this is part of some of the information that we're still getting, at least half of the budget that is earmarked for the Shepherd Park project will go to Shepherd Park one way or another. In terms of other things that we would need to consider on Kennedy Street, and I have not, is there public property, or is there going to have to be some kind of eminent domain? Will the city have to purchase, basically by hook or crook, the land on which a library might sit? A lot of that stuff. Will the city get involved in terms of, could we create some housing while we create a library, which is always what we're in favor of at DCPL? So long answer to your question, Commissioner, is that I don't know. Even with a renovation, though, I would caution to say that to renovate that building fully is going to cost a lot of money.
Mr. Gavilan, thank you for your time tonight. We really appreciate it. We know this isn't easy work. We also would like you to know that we have a subcommittee on public facilities that's co-chaired by Commissioner Pinckney and Judson, and at some point they might wish to engage you for some more work with the public library going forward. So we hope to continue working with you on this.
Thanks, Commissioner. I should introduce or reintroduce our Director of Community Engagement, Martha Sococho, has been on this whole time. You can contact her or contact me. We do a lot of our work together, for better or worse. But thank you all so much for giving me some time to talk, and looking forward to working with you for the betterment of our great city.
Miss Sococho, is that correct?
Yes.
If you could share your email in the chat as well, that would be helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night, and thank you all for your service.
Thanks to you both. Next up, we're going to go back to the Treasurer's report from Commissioner Corniotis, who asked us to hold off. So Commissioner Corniotis.
Thank you, Chair Parati. Commissioner Judson, may I share my screen?
Yes, you should have permission.
Thank you so much. So this month, actually, by May 15th, our quarterly financial report is due. So as a commission, this evening, because of the due date falls prior to our next public meeting in May, we have to approve and vote on this quarterly financial report. So I just wanted to share the financial report with the public at this point. So the starting budget was $8,030.88. And I wrote a check for the security fund, as well as we were charged $2.30 for a discrepancy in printing communication costs from our predecessors. So our balance as of today is $7,978.58. We anticipate getting our quarterly Q2 allotment of funding by May 15th. And so the next time I present, our balance should be about $5,000 to $6,000 more. But at this point, as of this evening, our balance is $7,978.58.
Questions for the treasurer from any of the commissioners first? Any questions from the general public for Treasurer Corniotis? No. Treasurer Corniotis, do you have a motion that you'd like us to approve?
Yes, may
Or is there a
we?
specific report?
Yeah, may we please move to approve the Q2 quarterly financial report as a commission?
I second.
Is there a question, Commissioner George?
Yeah, sorry, is the quarterly financial report just the statement of our balance, or is there a report associated with it that we should have in front of us?
No, this is the report and there are documents in terms of our bank statements that have to be uploaded, but this essentially is the report.
And Secretary or Treasurer Cornelius, will you share that with Secretary George so that we can officially put it into the minutes?
Yes, I'll share all of the supporting documents.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Secretary George?
I think so. Like, what's the actual report that we'll be submitting to the city? Is there?
This is what I'm sharing on the screen is what I
You're not
submit
sure-
to the city.
Oh.
Yeah, we're not seeing it, CC. Could you share your screen?
Maybe I should stop sharing. Wait, sorry. Can you see it?
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah, we
Okay,
can.
I apologize. I did not share properly. But again, this is the financial report, and I've already printed it it requires my signature, the chair's, and Secretary George's.
Got it. Thank you.
That answers my question.
Okay, are we ready for a vote then? All in favor of approving the report? I'll call on you one at a time. I think we have to do a roll call for this one. Commissioner Pinckney,
Aye.
Commissioner Judson,
Aye.
Commissioner Lucarelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Corniotis,
Aye.
Commissioner Morensick,
Aye.
Commissioner George,
Aye.
Commissioner Weigel,
Aye.
and it's an aye for me. The motion carries. The report is approved. Thank you, Treasurer Corniotis. Next up, we have committee updates. And you can, would you mind stop sharing your screen, please? Thank you. Next, we've got committee updates. If you don't have any updates for the ANC meeting, we can just go quickly. So let's start with public safety, co-chairs Weigel and Judson. Any updates?
I'll give some quick updates to the group. First one is I have a raging case of pink eye, so I'm not turning my camera on. I'm gonna keep it off to spare you guys the horror. So in terms of public safety, during the beginning of April, Commissioner Judson and myself worked together and got feedback to draft a resolution, especially meeting the folks from ONSE, Violence Interrupters, discussing the role of the safe passage employees, the ones from schools, and also like attending quite a few public safety meetings led by Commander Hamrick. I think his third sector is what covers us in our neighborhood, but learning more about, the humanizing the officers and like, what is it that's challenging about their job, and making things tougher to keep it safe for us as well. I tried to take all that consideration and drafted a really like a big swing of a resolution, I would say. There's a lot of like really weighty kind of big goals. And that being said, I want to elicit direct feedback from community members within 4D. And I'm really looking to, the folks here tonight, you all have the mental bandwidth and access to technology to be here. But I also want to like try to do this in a paper-based manner in a quick way so that people can see it as well who don't have access to technology, or are just still using a landline phone, et cetera. Right now, I'm waiting to hear back from Janice Lewis George's office about scheduling a one-to-one meeting. And so I think getting her and her office's feedback first can really help hone things down for us and our committee. You guys will see back at 8:25, I shared my contact information, my email and my cell phone in the chat room there. Anyone who is interested in joining our public safety committee and providing direct feedback about the corner you live on, the experiences you have, the things you've seen change over 20, 30, however many years you've been here, would be highly, highly valued for input in terms of actionable items that we can ask the city to support us with. Right? I'll go ahead and stop there. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it. Next up, Transportation Division Zero, co-chaired by Commissioners Lucarelli and Morensick.
Yeah, so we don't have any updates per se, other than the fact that my colleague on the commission has been a little busy as he's recently become a new father. And so it's my hope and desire to coordinate with him by the month's end to establish a meeting schedule and get news out to folks about what it is that we want to focus on. Stephen, Commissioner Morensic, if you have anything you want to add, feel free to chime in. Otherwise, that's all I have at this time.
Nope, I'm just ready to get working on it, and I appreciate the shout out. Thanks.
Next up, any updates from the Committee for Public Facilities, co-chaired by Commissioners Pinckney and Judson?
No, Judson testified at the hearing, so did Commissioner CC. And now the work begins in reference to the library with gathering data and information and petitions, etc. But we can report on that next month and the plan once we talk about it.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Next up, Committee for Environment and Public Health, co-chaired by Commissioners Corniotis and Weigel. Any updates?
Evening. Actually, this is sort of a public health related. I believe Commissioner Judson's going to share this in the relatively near future. But as most of us know, or probably all of us, that Porch Fest is upcoming on Saturday, and as a first sort of cleanup event for 4D, we plan to have a post Porch Fest cleanup day on Sunday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. That would be sort of our first inaugural cleanup event for the environment and public safety of the community. And also I plan to send out a newsletter which proposes having monthly cleanup events and/or as Commissioner Johnson from 4B calls them rat riddance events as well. And I am happy to recruit anyone who's willing. And I think I speak for Commissioner Weigel as well, who's willing to help us out and volunteer for this committee, because it's very important to keep our properties, our living space clean and rat free.
Question from Commissioner George.
Yeah, my only question is whether, do we have a location for that cleanup that we can share with folks?
Yes, there are two. Commissioner Judson, if you wanted to share the flyer, but
I'll get some when we finish.
One in Triangle Park and one at Larry Allen Park.
For some reason, I know I'm the Zoom whatever moderator, but I can't actually share my own screen. I do have your flyer pulled up, but I don't know if you're able to, CC, just share it yourself. Awesome. The graphics look great, by the way.
I can't take credit for that. That's Commissioner Weigel.
Nicely done, Clerk.
Thank you.
Great, thanks to you all. Next up, we have commissioner announcements. One quick announcement from me. Our next executive meeting is scheduled for May 3rd, Wednesday, May 3rd. Just a note to the public, these are business meetings where we basically plan the agenda for the public meeting. The executive meeting is open to the public, so you are welcome to come, but just be aware that we don't vote or do anything official other than really set up the agenda and plan for business for this meeting. The next public meeting will be held on Wednesday, May 17th. At 6:30 p.m. Any other commissioner announcements for the general public?
Commissioner Parati, I just wanted to just make everyone aware. Earlier this week, I spoke to a constituent who is experiencing issues with public disturbance, I guess is what you would call it, along 7th Street in between Longfellow and Kennedy. I provided you all their written statement as they had to drop off the call tonight. But I think what I'm going to do, based on the friendly reminder of the various committees that we're serving on, is pass along their information to the public safety group in an effort that they can connect and collaborate on, ways in which to remedy what's going on.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucarelli. Any other public announcements, Commissioner Judson?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on that in my single member district, there has been an uptick in graffiti on the back of people's properties, on fences and in garage doors. And so we've been working, Commissioner Lucarelli, it actually sort of spans both of our SMDs. So we've been working with Jasmine Benab from the mayor's office, as well as DPW, to help and figure out sort of first, like what's happening, involve the police to figure out if what's happening exactly. But also DPW has been extremely responsive and helpful in coming in and painting over the graffiti on people's properties. So just wanted to share that for A, awareness, and B, if you are noticing or experiencing any graffiti on your property or your neighbor's property, please reach out to one of your commissioners or to DPW, because that is something that the city does provide a service for, and the police are interested in sort of understanding what's happening in that space as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have community comments. So this is an opportunity for the community to weigh in on any issues that are affecting them. We just would ask that community members keep their comments succinct in the interest of time, limited to about 2 minutes per person. So any comments from the community?
I have a comment.
Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Zilla Jackson Wesley. And I'd like to thank all the wonderful comments that we received about the decorating of Lorenzo Allen Park, and any help that you want to give us. We appreciate that. And we'd like to get more dog bags, because the amount of poop is getting to be a lot for especially our babies that are playing outside out there in the park. Also, I'd like everybody to know that the name is Lorenzo Allen, not Larry. And that's a registered name that we put together in the DC government many years ago. So it's Lorenzo Allen Park. Thank you.
Lorenzo Allen Park.
Yeah, Lorenzo Allen. And
We'll
also
modify, sorry, Zilla, we'll
I'm making
modify
edits right
that
now.
for the flyer. Thank you.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, because that's really important, because it took a lot to get that registered with the city. And also I look forward to the grants and all being done. I think you said next month, CC. Okay. All right, thank you. That's my comment.
We're gonna figure all of the grant stuff out
Yeah.
as soon as possible. It's just that, a lot of grants were issued prior to our becoming being sworn in, and so it's just a matter of taking all things in account before we start reissuing grants.
Yeah, I understand completely. We're trying to do a growing schedule, because we Zoom every month.
Yep.
We have a scheduled growing seasons. Thank you for that, CC.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wesley. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Kathy Elliott, I see a hand. Ms. Elliott, are you able to hear us? No. Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to unmute my phone.
Oh, sure. There we go. We can hear you now.
Hi everyone. I'm curious to know about, we had a tree planted in front of our property by the city back in February. So I called 311 about it, because they planted the tree right by our water line, and we wanted to ask them to move it someplace else. So I talked to a few folks in that office. They had a contractor come out and do the work for them, and the city representative was parked a block up the street from our property, and they said I would have to speak to that person, that guy. And I said, when you go down there, can you let him know that I would like to speak with him? And to no avail, the person, I don't think the contractors let him know, but I called 311 and I spoke to somebody in that office and they said they would have the director call me back. And that was on February 9th. To this day, I have not heard back from that person. So we still want that tree relocated because, like I said, it's right by our water line.
Got it. I will say I'm surprised you did, because I will be honest with you, the tree planting people in DC are actually usually pretty responsive. So it's one of the departments that
They
actually
were
really-
responsive, but the director wasn't responsive, and they said that it needed to be there. They scoped our area, our block, and that was the best place for it. But I happen to just disagree with that.
Got it. Okay. Well, here's what we can do, Ms. Elliott. Do you know who your ANC commissioner is by chance? Or...
The lady that's CC that you called it CC, I believe.
Perfect. If you don't mind, if you have a copy of your 311 request that you can forward her, and then
Okay.
CC can follow up with the office, the relevant office for you on your behalf.
Yeah, and
Okay,
actually
I
the
can do that.
director of the tree, I don't want to call him the tree director, but he lives relatively close to me as well. So just provide, as Chair Parati states, just forward me your 311 request and I'll follow up with him via email and CC you on that as well.
Okay, and I have one other question as well.
Sure.
Last week or so, a notice was put on our property, several copies of it, because we are a 4-unit building and we live in the property actually. So a notice was put on our door titled Notice of BZA Exception Request, an agenda item for virtual ANC 4D meeting. I don't know if I missed it, but it's about the property at 329 Delafield Place. Was that discussed this evening? Because it said it was due to be discussed tonight at the ANC meeting.
We haven't discussed it yet, but if you stay tuned for a little bit longer, I know it's running late. It is on the agenda for us to get through tonight.
Oh, okay. I thought we were ending the meeting, so that's why I thought I'd mention it.
No, we still have a little ways to go. So if you're just patient with us a little bit longer, thank you.
Okay, thanks for your time.
Sure. I see a hand raised from Ms. Beverly Vinston.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Beverly Vincent from Destiny Church. Thank you for having us this evening. And I wanted to introduce Dr. Adibo Tomamiwo, who is our senior pastor, and he'd like to talk a little bit about the projects we have coming up.
Yes, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
We just moved into Ward 4, Georgia Avenue. I believe Georgia Avenue falls into which ward now? Is it Ward 4? I wouldn't know which ward that falls into. That is 529 Georgia Avenue. We just got moved into that place as a church in March, and part of the things we'll do as a church, apart from having service, is to work with the community. We do a lot of work with those that are homeless, that are in shelters, to be able to offer them full English breakfast on Sunday morning. We bring them in, and apart from doing that, I have a degree in drugs and alcohol treatment and counseling. So I bring in my skill to be able to talk with them and show them therapeutic ways into treatment in the city and how to connect to the various treatment centers so that they can get all the help they need. So as a result of that, we run also a recovery class, a liberty recovery class for those having substance misuse issues. And while doing that, we also have a contract agreement with UPO. They are working with us to be able to provide job training for those that were taken through the class of recovery. So, and the job training that they are providing include giving people job training, plumbing, to be an effective electrician, IT, building, we want to become a builder, and different job skills, just to make sure as they come out of the class, they are connected to jobs. So on the 29th of this month, one of the managers are coming to speak to everybody in that place, and is open to anybody in the community, young people that are looking for jobs. And he said these skills can, at least, if anybody go to that class, can earn them $100,000 a year. So I feel we should let the community know that such thing is going on. Anybody in the community that want to be a part is open to the public from 9:30 on the 29th of April and 10:30 respectively. Also, we are having a food bank that we're kicking off for the pet wards for the community. And then we are launching that food bank from this Sunday, from around 1:15 for the community. So we just want to introduce ourselves because we like to be able to identify families that are low-income families so that we'll be able to channel this food we are receiving into these various families so that they can benefit out of the things that we are receiving. That is the information we want to give. And that the day of distributing the food, apart from launching it, the Thursday by 5 p.m. to 7, we'll be getting the food distributed. And we'd like to also meet with the commissioner that is in charge of our area. I don't know which commissioner is in charge of our area. So that is the announcement that we have.
Great, thank you so much and welcome to the community. We're very glad to have you here.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Mr. Chair, just to clarify, Mr. Adebo, thank you. My name is Carson Lucarelli and I'm the commissioner that I believe represents this district. And so I'll put my email in the chat and you
okay,
can.
It's your number. I think you are the one in charge of the area where we are.
Yeah, I believe so. I was speaking to someone from your parish throughout the week. She told me she was driving and that she couldn't attend though tonight. So that.
Okay, that's Minister Wanda. Okay, that is your number is 202-573-9255. Is it?
Yeah, send me an email.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
okay,
it's in the chat.
It's in the chat. Okay, I will do that. We'll do that. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other community comments before we move on to old business? Hearing none. Move on to old business. First up,
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, hello. I am on the phone. I couldn't log into Zoom. This is Gabriella on behalf of Uptown Main Street. Just wanted to be sure to make an announcement about Porch Fest this weekend. And Porch Fest does have a special activity that includes Brightwood Park on Saturday. We are planning music on the 700 block of Kennedy Street. The DJ starts at 5 and then will be 2 live bands from 6 past 8 p.m. And hopefully the weather will cooperate. So we are looking out for that, and hopefully we will not have to reschedule. The plan is to have the music all afternoon throughout Petworth and parts of Brightwood Park Saturday from 2 to 6, and then live music on Kennedy Street after 6 p.m. So wanted to make sure that everybody knew about that. Hope you can join us. I'm sure everybody's also aware there is a cleanup. There's an Earth Day cleanup citywide that is Saturday morning starting at 10, and there is one node that starts on Kennedy that is being organized by the city. So at 10 a.m. there is a cleanup, 10 a.m. Saturday. But hopefully you'll all join us for Porch Fest. Go to petworthporchfest.org to get all the details. Contact us. Check out, again, petworthporchfest.org. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for calling. We appreciate it. Any other community comments? All right. Next up, we've got old business. First on the agenda is Mariachi Bar and Grill. Commissioner Lucarelli, any updates?
No updates.
That's easy. Next up, we've got the alley naming. Commissioner George, I think that's yours.
Yeah, that's me. So folks who've been coming to our meetings for the last few months will know that we have been working to try and come up with a name for the alley that sits on Square 3015, which is between Buchanan and Crittenden and 9th and Georgia Avenue. Through talking to folks who live on the block, as well as discussing as a commission, we've decided to support the name Catlett Alley, named after Elizabeth Catlett, a famous sculptor who lived in DC and was extraordinarily influential, creating art that captured the experience of women, and particularly Black women, especially during the civil rights era. We are honored for the opportunity to name an alley in our neighborhood after such a luminary figure. And so we have drafted a resolution, which I linked to the agenda, and I can link again here, that supports legislation that was submitted by Councilmember Louis George's office to name the alley. So I am proposing a resolution that supports that proposed legislation. And I'm happy to take any questions if there are any from the community. Otherwise, maybe we can vote on the resolution.
Any questions for Commissioner George? Commissioner George, we have the resolution. Is there a second?
Commissioner Pinckney, second.
Thank you. Then we can take a vote. Well, first, any debate about the motion from any of the commissioners? No. Then we can have a vote. Commissioners, when I call your name, please say aye or nay.
Aye.
Commissioner Judson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lucarelli.
So moved.
Commissioner Corniotis.
Aye.
Commissioner Morensic.
Aye.
Commissioner George.
Aye.
Commissioner Weigel.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so the motion carries. Thank you, Commissioner George. Next up, we have a zoning adjustment for 329 Delafield Place. Commissioner Morensic.
Oh, this is Commissioner Pinckney. I've been working on it. Remember?
Commissioner, yeah, that's right, Commissioner Pinckney.
Okay. First of all, this evening's meeting, well, we received the report last month, and this is a follow-up because Mr. Michael and his wife, Skylar Potter, they have submitted application number 20895 to the BZA for accepting they have accepted a request to adjust their property. The property is at 329 Delafield Place Northwest. It is a 4-unit apartment building. Unfortunately, there was a devastating fire in 2022, and now they're able to start renovating and rebuilding their building. The reason for this request is because during this process, they would like to add 2 additional apartment homes to the building. The biggest reason why they have to ask this zoning request is to get exception to having to provide parking space on their property versus the use of the parking spaces on the street. The reason for this request is to allow a yard to be accessible to all of his residents. And I'll put a period there. Okay. One of the questions that we had to answer was the verification of the engagement with the community, and specifically at least all of their neighbors within 200 feet of the property had to be notified in several different ways. And tonight, this is this meeting, all of his residents or his neighbors were asked or invited to come to this meeting to also have an opportunity to ask questions or to be notified. So this serves as his community open opportunity to present to them. He sent a letter, a very thorough letter about his plans and what they were doing, etc., to the community, along with other dates that I have, which will be added to the form that we will send to to the zoning commission once we approve this project. With the addition of these 2 apartment homes, that will bring the number of units in this building to 6. Last month, he presented the plans of how the rooms would be designed. And it's very important that we note that the construction in no way will go outside of the aesthetics that's currently working in that neighborhood. So the neighbors won't have to worry about, oh, something looking so modern that it doesn't add to the community, which I really liked that. So he's taking into account the neighborhood and the neighbors and fitting in. Okay, today we would hear comments from any of his community members about questions, etc. And I believe Mr. and Mrs. Potter are on this call. Are you here?
Yes, ma'am, we are here. And
Okay.
I know you mentioned we gave a presentation last week. I do have it in front of me, and I'm pretty concise. I'd be happy to step through it in between 2 and 4 minutes if that would be helpful for as a preface to public comments or whatever the commission thinks is best here.
Well, I'm going to allow the chair to make that decision.
Yeah, let me just explain to you very briefly, Mr. Potter, what it is that we need to do tonight. So the ANC needs to verify 2 things, basically. One is that your neighbors have been notified that this is happening. And the other thing that we have to provide a forum for people to raise any objections or concerns and give you a chance to respond to them. And then we have to decide whether or not we have any concerns ourselves, or if we don't. If we don't, we just sign the form and we send it on its way. If we do have any concerns that have not been addressed, then we add them to the form and we send it on its way so that at some point you can address those with the zoning office. So I think, I know we have at least one neighbor here tonight, Ms. Elliott, but we'll open this up first to any concerns from any commissioners or questions from any commissioners about this specific project.
Good evening. I should have raised my hand. I apologize, Chair Parati. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Potter. Right before this meeting started, I received a phone call from a senior retired professor from Howard who lives very close to your building. He has several health problems. His wife still works and usually comes home late at night. And he really called. He said, "I'm scared to death that my wife will not have off-street or off-street parking when she comes home from work. She's she herself is elderly, is a senior." And he just was very concerned. He said he would have signed into this meeting this evening, but again, he has several health problems, and his son, who helps him sign on to these meetings, is out of town. And so, it was a concerning phone call, to say the least. And I was just wondering, again, I know that you've notified your neighbors about the development, but have you actually, spoken to them directly of their concerns? Because as I said, this gentleman was very freaked out, and it's not the type of phone call that I like receiving from a constituent.
I understand the concern and appreciate the comment, Commissioner. In this instance, what my wife Skylar and I did was move through the neighborhood and hand out flyers. That was one form of several forms of notice that we provided. And when possible, we did engage with community members. So we knocked on doors, we left flyers. We didn't, there were definitely instances where we didn't knock on doors. Somebody clearly wasn't home, but we did leave flyers everywhere. And I didn't keep count of the exact number of people we actually spoke to.
It was
but,
at least 15 people.
Yeah, it was between 15 and 25, I'd say. It was more than 15, certainly. So, we did what we could with respect to that. And we also sent, the Board of Zoning Adjustment also sent a mailing to all property owners within 200 feet. That was sent on the 10th of February, I believe. And in addition to that, I guess those are probably the big things that may have caught this person in particular, who I do not recall speaking with. So I understand the concern. I would also note that while I do not live on this block, I do go by there regularly because we're very engaged landlords, both my wife and I. This area, it is genuinely not densely, there's not a ton of parking problems there. I've never had an issue parking there. I know in our last meeting, when we touched on this briefly, other commissioners also raised a similar concern. And I believe Commissioner Morensic may live nearby this and has a dog that he's occasionally walking. And I believe, I won't speak for him, but that he may have echoed that view of mine, that it's not as rough as some neighborhoods are parking wise, by a long shot, in my view.
Mr. Potter, can you just clarify for us how many parking spaces you would be eliminating? Are we talking about just one spot? Okay, so we're not talking about 10 spots. Got it. Okay, thank you. Ms. Elliott. Oh, yes, please.
For what it's worth, most of the times our tenants have kids, and the spot would be the backyard, like the only available green space, really. So that's what we were thinking, that it would be better to have the green space available. Just because they're really, I've never had a problem parking there when I go there, but I also understand what this gentleman's saying. I mean, I can completely understand it, of course.
And it's a good point, and I would add on that our tenants do not generally have cars. I can't say never. I don't know who we would end up with down the road, but in the past, they have not had vehicles.
And Cece, maybe this is an opportunity too to think about maybe encouraging him to apply for a disabled parking space so that he has a guaranteed spot on his block, which might be helpful for him. Ms. Elliott, I see that your hand is. Oh, I'm sorry, Joy, were you going to say something?
Oh yeah, no, that's exactly what I was going to raise with CC. I know that would fall under their ANC person, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
I should mention also that, I have several senior friends, so to speak, and I know that a couple of them who have those handicap parking spots, that they've been told by, I don't know if it's DDOT or some, an agency stating that it's going to be harder, for whatever reason, it's going to be harder to obtain those spots. So that's something we should also keep in mind as a commission.
Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry, this is Pinky.
Sure.
Now that we know this, and it's been a serious concern of his, and to know that they're both elderly or whatever, I can help try to get that done. So maybe by the time his project is complete, they will already have their designated parking space in front of their home.
I would appreciate working with you on that, Commissioner.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Question from Ms. Elliott. I see a hand raised.
Hi, I live in the block, so I guess I have a few concerns. I wanted to know, first of all, are there people living at this property right now, or is it still under construction?
No, ma'am. At the time of the fire, people needed to vacate the building, and so it's currently
What-
vacant.
Okay, will those tenants be moving back?
Some have expressed an interest in doing so, and some remained nearby, and we would be open to it, certainly. We're pretty hands-on landlords and had good relationships with those folks.
But it's also been a
Okay.
year since they moved out. So I mean, I would hope
Okay.
that they found nice permanent relocation, for their sake. Too.
Okay, did those tenants have vehicles already? The ones in the
No, they did not.
Okay. So you're planning to put build parking in the back of your property, is that correct? 2 spots, is that what I understood, or?
I'm sorry, did you say, would you mind repeating that?
Are
for me?
you, I guess my question is just so that I'm clear, are you planning to construct 2 parking spaces in the rear of the property? Is that what you were planning to do?
No,
Or
ma'am,
no?
not quite, but let me try to offer some clarity and see if it answers your question. So as a 4-unit building, one is not required to have a parking spot. By virtue of adding 2 additional units to this building, which we propose doing at the basement level, so it wouldn't change the footprint of the building and it wouldn't pop up either. By moving from 4 to 6 units, we would then normally need to have a single parking space. And in order to get an exception to that requirement, one needs an exception by the Board of Zoning Adjustment. And one part of the process of getting that exception is what we're doing here tonight. So the requirement would be to have 1 off-street parking space. And the reason that we would like to not do that is because, again, our tenants don't generally have cars, but they do often have children. And this would eliminate by approximately half the amount of green space we can offer in the rear of the property. I guess if you live on the block, you might be familiar with the rear of these properties and how wide they are. But that's generally our concern and why we were seeking this exception.
Okay. Thank you for that information. My only concern is that right now, when we have different properties in the block, there's a property next door to yours, I think that's under construction as well. When they hire contractors, they have a tendency to block the entire alley, which is a problem for us. So if you did pursue this down the road, it would be great if you would keep that in mind to make it, if they have to offload their equipment and then go park someplace and then come back, that would really help our community, or our block, at least between Emerson and Delafield and between 34 streets. So we can, because a lot of us park in the back.
I'm
And
sensitive
we don't want to be inconvenienced.
I understand. I'm sensitive to that. I go over there to mow the lawn and occasionally notice the same thing. So
Okay.
yes, I understand.
Okay. And to Commissioner Cece and Commissioner Pinckney, regarding the elderly person in our block, I think I know who you're talking about. My only concern is that we do have a lot of riffraff in the block, as it is people that come into our neighborhood who do not live here, which I know people do have company coming over, but it's not the company that that everyone is quite comfortable with, shall I say, to say the least. And there might be people with handicap tags on their vehicles. If they see that sign, how will that senior citizen person, I guess, get access to that property by someone else who has a handicap sticker? Will there be a sign that says for this person at this resident and this apartment number? Because they're all commercial,
Yes.
multi-unit buildings. How will
Yes.
it be designated just for him specifically?
Yes, it will be specifically for the address. If it's an apartment building, it will say the apartment number. It'll be assigned specifically to them. And if they get home and somebody's in it, they can call to have them towed.
Great. Okay. All right. Thank you. I think that answers my question. Oh, there is one other thing. I apologize. Regarding the alley and people parking in the alley, before we used to have signs on the electrical poles or the wooden poles in the alley. When they upgraded the poles to do electrical upgrades, I guess in the block between 3rd and 4th streets in the alley between Emerson and Delafield, those signs were removed by the contractors and were never replaced by the city. So I've called ample times to get the poles replaced and put back to remind people that they can't park in the alley. But to no avail, this has happened yet. So if there's anything that you can do to get that request expedited, that would help as well. To deter some of that parking illegally in the alley.
Yeah, well, what did the sign say?
No parking in alley. I think it was the white sign with red whiting. No
Okay.
parking allowed in alley, something to that effect.
Okay. Okay.
I don't remember if it said at all times, but it's no parking allowed. I think that should suffice.
Okay, and do you remember how many signs there were?
They were posted on like every other pole, wherever there's a light pole or the tall electrical poles in the alley, they were actually posted on those poles.
Okay, on each pole in the alley?
Yeah, or every other one.
Okay. And what is your name?
Kathy Elliott.
Kathy with a C?
K-A-T-H-Y.
K-A. Okay, Miss Kathy. Elliott.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner
As I
Lucarelli.
said, oh, I'm sorry.
Hi,
Just
Mr.
quickly,
Chair.
as I said, Ms. Elliott, I look forward to receiving your email, and Commissioner Pickney and I will also be
Yes.
very willing and excited to speak with you directly.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Cece.
Commissioner Lucarelli.
Mr. Chair, I was just going to ask Mr. Potter if he could put his contact information in the chat. I understand the concerns that the last constituent, Miss Elliott, raised about blocking the alley, and so I think it'd be great if he could put that info in the chat. That way, if these things arise during construction, folks have an easy way to get a hold. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I've added that information to the chat. If anybody can't see it, please just let me know.
Yeah, and this consideration will also be put on our form that we submit as a concern for the community, because they use that alleyway, and that you are willing to stay on top of your contractors about not parking there. Okay, to address that concern.
I think Commissioner Pinkney, I could be mistaken, but I actually think that doesn't go on this form. I think there's a separate process for that that's on the building permit side. I think this form is just about the parking space variance and concerns that we have specific to that. Okay. I believe that's correct. I believe there are other opportunities to express concern about the parking, but I think for this form, it's limited just to the parking. Commissioner George?
One moment, please. I wanted to clarify, Chairman, that it's a double exception. One is to add the 2 units, and the second is for the parking spot. Yes, sir. I just wanted to be clear. Yeah, thank you.
Are any other concerns in the community about this request for the additional 2 units plus the parking? Are there any concerns from the commissioners that need to be put on the form? So hearing none, it sounds like the report has no concerns that we are ready to, that we want to file with the zoning office. So we'll take a vote. And so just to be clear, it's a report that says that we're officially documenting that the Potters have notified the community. The community had an opportunity to express their concerns. Based on the conversation, there are no concerns that the ANC has about this specific variance. So just to be clear, that's what we're voting on.
And no, we're voting, all of that, but to approve them going forward, that they've met all of our requirements.
That's correct. Thank you, Commissioner Pinkney. Commissioners, when I call your name, please say aye if you support the report. Commissioner Pinkney.
Aye.
Commissioner Judson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lucarelli.
Aye.
Commissioner Cornelius.
Aye.
Commissioner Morensic.
Aye.
Commissioner George.
Aye.
Commissioner Weigel.
Aye.
And I'm an aye too. The motion carries. So, and I just want to say thank you to Commissioner Pinkney. I know you stepped in to take over for Commissioner Morensic while he was on paternity leave. So thank you for all your work doing that.
No problem. May I just ask a question?
Sure.
Probably of the secretary. Is there a form that I can actually type into, or do I need to print it and write? Because the form you sent me, I just couldn't type into it. It's just,
When I click on it, I am able to type into it.
okay,
but
well, if
I'm
you
also
can just
happy to-
send me the link, then maybe I have to go into the link. Okay, we can deal with that offline.
I'm happy
All
to,
right.
yeah, I'm happy to help out
Thank
offline
you
to
so
make
much.
sure we get it all set.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you. And Mr. and Mrs. Potter, we will send the form off to the appropriate office.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the help, and thank you, Commissioner Pinckney, for stepping in on this.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I enjoyed our exchange. And good
Let's
luck
do.
with everything, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, new business, we have Commissioner George, a resolution about automated traffic enforcement.
Yeah, so the background to this resolution, I think this was mentioned during the mayor's budget presentation. Under current DC law, the excess revenue from automated traffic enforcement cameras, so revenue over about $98 million from red light cameras, speeding cameras, stop sign cameras, is supposed to be earmarked specifically for a Vision Zero fund that is dedicated towards projects for the Vision Zero campaign. So projects that are meant to make streets safer for all of us to travel on and reduce crashes. In the mayor's new budget proposal, what she has proposed is eliminating that requirement that excess funding go towards Vision Zero projects, and instead proposed using all the revenue generated by automated traffic enforcement for basically the general revenue fund of the district. In addition, on top of that, that's kind of that's being paired with a proposed roughly tripling, or 300, I think something like a tripling of automated traffic enforcement cameras. So many more cameras, a lot more revenue, and instead of going into the Vision Zero fund, it's proposed to be used for the general revenue fund. I raised concerns that I think that this proposal reinforces concerns that automated traffic enforcement can be used in a predatory way. I think automated traffic enforcement can be a good tool to try and improve safety, identify hotspots, get revenue to help fund safety projects. But a lot of people have concerns about these sorts of cameras, that they're used just to balance the budget and to get money for the district. And I think that the proposed change kind of gives weight to those concerns. So the resolution that I proposed lays that background out and just clarifies that as a commission, we oppose the proposal to reclassify excess ATE revenue as general revenue. We call out that sort of change would rightfully be viewed as predatory and potentially inequitable, given the way these fines disparately impact populations in our district. We would call upon the mayor to use traffic calming as a safety tool of first resort, and try to basically work our way out of needing to use enforcement fines by just designing safer streets. And then also call upon the mayor to use automated traffic enforcement to identify cars and drivers that persistently drive unsafely, and use it as a tool to identify unsafe drivers that we need to focus additional enforcement efforts on. The resolution, did I paste a link into the chat? If I didn't, I'll do that here. But that is the resolution. I'm happy to take questions or entertain discussion about it.
Is there a second, first of all?
I second.
Excellent. The matter is up for debate. So any commissioners have any comments or questions? Any feedback from anyone from the public? Are we ready to call a vote? See not? Okay. All right, commissioners. When I call your name, say aye if you support the motion. Commissioner Pinckney?
Aye.
Commissioner Judson,
Aye.
Commissioner Lucarelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Corniotis,
Aye.
Commissioner Morensic. Not hearing Commissioner Morensic, we'll put him down as an abstention. Commissioner George,
Aye.
Commissioner Weigel,
Aye.
and I am an aye as well. The motion carries. Thank you, Commissioner George. Having no other business on the agenda, are we ready to adjourn?
Second.
Second, all right. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you,
Are there
everybody.
Any nays? No? Okay. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you. It was a long weekend meeting, but I hope it was productive. So thank you all.
Good night.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Yeah.